Welcome back, Woodward Sports Network. Ryan Ermanni, Braylon Edwards, Tom Mazaway. We got Pete Spivak and JB in the house as well. Talking a little Lions and Bears, round 2 this year. Lions got the best of Chicago just a couple of weeks ago, despite 4 turnovers from Detroit. So we go to Chicago now and bring in Jason McKee, 9-year NFL vet. He's the Bears sideline reporter. You can follow him on X at JMac37. How are you, Jason? Thanks so much for the time here in Detroit.
Doing good. Getting excited hearing you guys talk about this matchup on Sunday. The Bears get an opportunity to right their wrongs, a game in which everybody here in Chicago feels like Detroit stole from us. So we're excited to get the Lions on our home turf and to right our wrongs and see what we can do on Sunday.
You know what, Jason? You mentioned that. How deflating is it for a team? The Lions had no business in losing that football game. It did feel like they winning that football game. Even look, I even feel like they lost the game. Yeah. But they did steal that game. How deflating was that for the Bears?
It was real deflating because, going into that game, the Bears, it was Justin Fields' first game back off injury. And the Bears have been struggling all year, as we've all seen. They've had their ups and downs. And that was a game in which the Bears came out and played really well. And nobody expected them to. And then, you play an entire game well, and then it comes down to the fourth quarter, and you just have that disaster. You just unravel and gift one to Detroit. It was real deflating, especially after the game, me being in the locker room after the game and seeing the guys' mood. I mean, they were dejected, they were upset, they were in shock and disbelief. And when you have something like that, your season can continue to go down, or you can battle back and try to right your wrongs and rebound. And that's what they did last week against the Vikings. So they've had a bye week after winning against the Vikings, and now they get another opportunity to, like I said, right their wrongs against a very good Detroit Lions team.
Hey, Jay, man, quick pivot before I ask you the real question, man. And shout out to one of my family NFL brothers in arms, man. So good to talk to you. How was that locker room with Spice, freaking Adams? Then you got Alex Brown, and then you also got Lance, and then you got Peanut Tillman. I know that locker room used to be S's and giggles.
Man, those guys are just straight clowns. You know what I'm saying? Straight comedians, great football players that are great people. So to be able to go into battle each and every Sunday with those guys, but to have the type of locker room that we had, a bunch of great men in that locker room that had great personalities, I think that attributed to a lot of success that we had while I was here in Chicago. Yeah. And that's why our bonds remain close to this day.
A lot of success you guys did have. A lot of respect to you and those Bears teams. But getting back to full circle and the current situation with the Bears, what's the energy right now with the Chicago Bears? Obviously, it's so much on the outside. We look at it. Is Justin Fields going to be the quarterback of the future? Is he not? What's up with the coach? Is he not? What are the Chicago Bears? What are they playing for this week? What is the energy this week? Is it more so the future, or is it team in front, Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I mean, the mindset has been the same all year for the Bears. They've been able to, maintain camaraderie in that locker room and not really listen to the outside naysayers. And in the mindset of the players, from what I've been hearing throughout the press conferences this week, is they're trying to go out and win one game at a time. Right now, it's a 5-game season for them. A lot of evaluations are left to be made. Coach Matt Eberflus is under evaluation. The future of Justin Fields here in Chicago is under evaluation. Yeah. So everybody on this roster knows it's a 5-game evaluation, but not just for the headliner guys. For the lower end guys on this roster, their jobs are at stake as well, because whether or not you bring in a new coach, into this organization, those guys are going to have to either impress the current coach that's here, if Coach Eberflus remains the head coach of the Bears next year. But if there's a new coach, these guys know that they have to have some good film out there if they want to remain on this roster, or if they want to be on an NFL roster in the future. So it's a lot at stake here in Chicago with these last 5 games.
So refreshing talking to a cat that knows the behind the scenes stuff. It's like we're speaking the same language. Last quick question on me before I turn over to Maz. I know you want to talk about the other side of the ball. I want to talk about my position, DJ Moore. DJ Moore is a guy, we saw what he could do at Carolina. That's why the deal was made for him. We saw what he can do when you get him the ball. Talk about what DJ Moore can bring to the Chicago Bears if they just put the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, DJ Moore is such a dynamic receiver. We know he generates a lot of explosive plays that we haven't had here in Chicago in a long time. And he's a guy that, if you give him the ball on a screen pass, he can turn into a running back and take that, that 2-yard screen pass and turn it into a 20 or 40-yard gain. So having his ability to be able to generate explosive plays. I mean, you see why he's been, so far the MVP of the Bears this season. And when a quarterback has a true number one receiver in which he knows he can go to him at any time, and he knows that number one receiver is going to make that big play. I mean, it's such a luxury for the quarterback to have. But in terms of the receiver position, we need other guys to step up. Darnell Mooney hasn't had the year that we envisioned him having. Tight end Cole Kmet has done some good things, but there's some other guys that need to step up in that wide receiver room, because as we move throughout the season, if defenses take away DJ Moore, now you're really hamstringing this Bears passing game.
Hey, Jason McKee joins us, the Bears sideline reporter, played in the NFL for 9 years, fullback. Of course, I want to ask you about your career in a minute, Jay, but I want to ask you about the guy that left the Bears, and David Montgomery comes over here to Detroit. You pair him up with Jahmyr Gibbs. What's your take on the Lions running game?
Yeah, it's a great pair. Those two guys in tandem, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. I was a huge fan of David Montgomery when he was here. I think he was a true blue collar, running back in terms of what we've had here in Chicago for a long time. A guy that's effective running on the interior, moving the chains, and a guy that's had good longevity in terms of being healthy here when he was in Chicago. And to lose a guy like that, a guy who was one of the heartbeats of that locker room, one of the guys who was one of the tone setters, on the offense, I think it really hurt. And, Detroit got a good one. And then you pair him up with a guy that you guys drafted in Jahmyr Gibbs, who can take that ball and, really take it a distance. And, those two guys in tandem have done really well. And I think that's the reason why you see Jared Goff having such a good year, because as we know, if you want to be a great quarterback in this league, you want to be able to lean on an effective run game, and Detroit definitely has that.
Yeah, definitely. We hope it continues. By the way, nothing against the Bears. Take that, Jay. I don't want to hurt your feelings. Hey, for all the teams that you played for, what was your best time in the NFL? The best coach you played for? Your best experience in the NFL?
Yeah, it's going to be the Bears without a doubt. Lovie Smith was a great coach, but more importantly, he was a great man, and he treated us like men. We went about our day, and it was a situation where, Lovie cared about us as people and not just football players. So there were many a times in which guys was able to go up to his office and actually talk to him about life, related things that didn't entail football. So when you have a coach like that, who believes in you guys as people, who cares about you guys as people, and he shows that on a daily basis, you run through a wall for him. And I think, the type of guys, like I mentioned earlier, that we had in our locker room, it's easy to see the type of success that we had. And if you want to have success in this league, and Braylon will attest to this, you got to have close-knit guys in that locker room. You got to be able to trust the guy you're lining up next to. And when you have that type of camaraderie, and you have that type of passion for your brother who's going out there with you on each and every Sunday, that directly translates to wins and success on the football field.
That's awesome. Hey, now that you're on the other side of the deal now, instead of getting interviewed, you're doing the interviewing. And your first year on the sidelines in Chicago, what's that like in historic Soldier Field? And what's your take on this whole media business now that you're in it?
Yeah, it's been fun. When I first retired, I did a lot of TV, and I didn't like it because you had to put a lot of makeup on, and I got a face for radio, so I moved to the radio side. And the sideline thing is awesome. Being right there on the field, it's like you're back in the action, and I love it that I'm back in the action, and I don't have to wake up, Monday morning bruised up, banged up. I get to be there in the action, but go home healthy, and it's just a different view. And it just enables me to be around the guys, but it also gives an opportunity to, to talk to some of these young guys, to mentor some of these young guys who are not on the air, to help them throughout their career. So, a lot of times during the interviews, me and the guys will talk for like 10 minutes before we actually start the interview. And if I can just give them any veteran tips or any veteran nuggets or knowledge that I can give them, that's what I want to do. Obviously, the NFL is a tight brotherhood, and we want to see all our brothers succeed. So that's the beauty of being able to have this opportunity and covering the game, but also being able to mentor some of these young guys on that football team.
Hey, Jason, one of the things that I was struck by during the Lions player availability yesterday was how the players were talking about just how hard the Bears are playing, just how hard they play. And it struck me, and I look at their schedule here. They won 2 out of the last 3. 3 of their next 5 are at home. If you can win out This is a playoff team. If you went out and you look at these games, there is no team on this schedule that Chicago cannot beat. Do they feel like Sunday's game is a little bit like a playoff game against Detroit?
Yeah, 100%. A lot of the guys, like I mentioned earlier, throughout the press conferences that I've heard over there at Hallis Hall, the guys are taking this game Sunday like a playoff game because they know they got to get one in order to be able to, finish the season on a high note and maybe sneak into the playoffs. And they got some winnable games down the stretch. We've got the Falcons here at Soldier Field. We've got the Cardinals here at Soldier Field. We still got to go up to Green Bay, our last game. But the Bears like where they are right now. And, if you look at it in the past, the Bears have played well against the Lions. And, they're excited about getting this opportunity on their home turf to rebound and to really finish the deal, in which they didn't do, up there in Detroit. So I know a lot of the guys feel good coming off a bye week. This is the healthiest this team has been. Looking at practice the other day in terms of injuries, everybody was available except for linebacker Noah Sewell. So, they got everybody back at hand, and I know they're excited to kick this thing off on Sunday.
Talking to former NFL fullback J Mac, and now he is sideline pro with the Bears. Man, that's crazy how we're transitioning in terms of football to now opposite side and what we deal with. Now we probably give guys a little grace, like, oh, I kind of understand certain things. It's kind of cool. But time to talk about the real guy I want to talk about. Wanted this guy for the Detroit Lions. I thought that he would help Aiden on the opposite side. You know where I'm going. Montez Sweat, since he's been a part of the Chicago Bears, the defense has turned around. The team has turned around. The energy has just gone up with the Chicago Bears. Talk about what he's meant to that defense and that team since the acquisition.
Yeah, if you look at the addition of Montez Sweat, and here in Chicago we call it the Sweat Factor, and you look at it in terms of the takeaways, the Sweat Factor. You look at the takeaways the Bears have generated the last two games. You got 7 interceptions out there in Detroit. They had 3 against Jared Goff, and then they followed it up with 4 against Joshua Dobbs. This defense is playing at a whole new level, and Montez brings about energy. But the thing that Montez is, he's a multiplier, right? And what I mean by that is, before the addition of Montez Sweat, the only marked guy on their defensive line was Yannick Ngakoue. Now you can't just lock in and slide your protection or focus your protection on Yannick Ngakoue, right? Yeah. You've got to look at Montez Sweat. And now what Montez Sweat does, his ability to get to the quarterback, but also to create pressure, allows one-on-one matchups for the other guys along that defensive front. So you look at guys like Justin Jones, who was non-existent before Montez Sweat got here. He's had some success. You look at Yannick Ngakoue, he's gotten better. You look at the secondary. They're getting their hands on footballs and they're turning the ball over. So it was a great acquisition by Ryan Poles to make that move, bringing Montez Sweat here. And now you have a guy on this defense, right, on this defensive front that he can be one of your pillars for a long time. And that's one thing that you look at this defense in terms of the level. Defensive line, you've got a stalwart in Montez Sweat. Linebackers, you got Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, who's playing at a Pro Bowl level this year. And in the secondary, you have some young guys, Jaquan Brisker at safety. He's an alpha male out there on the field. He's vocal. He brings a lot of energy. Jalen Johnson, obviously, is in a contract situation, but he's been playing well the last few weeks. So you have key pieces at every level of this defense, and we got to give credit. As much adversity and as much scrutiny that Matt Eberflus has been under here in Chicago, he's done a great job calling his defense.
You bring up Ryan Poles' acquisition of Montez Sweat. Does an acquisition like that give Poles an extra year? Or do you still feel like his job is on the line here?
Number ones coming up.
Yeah, you've got 2. Yeah, exactly. You've got 2 number ones coming up. Do you let him make those picks?
Yeah, it's tough. I think it's,
Y'all
it's
trying to get my boy in trouble, man. Don't answer. Blink once.
Hey, man,
he needs to get out here.
He's in the media. He's in the media now, man.
I gotta support him.
Hey, he's in the media.
Also over.
The brotherhood first, okay? The brotherhood first. I gotta make sure my boy is good, man.
Hey,
go ahead,
Jay. Bray, man, we gotta call a spade, man. I think it's a 5-game audition. I think right now, I'm not sure where GM Ryan Poles is leaning. I'm not sure where President Kevin Warren is leaning right now. I think everything's still up in the air. You do have an opportunity to get one of these top quarterback prospects in the draft. And for me, just looking at the landscape of things, it's hard to envision that Chicago would do the same thing that they did last year. Trade away that number 1 pick. Obviously they got some things back for it in DJ Moore. You solidified that right tackle position in Darnell Wright. But it's just hard for me to see them passing on a quarterback that could really change the tide of the future. Now, that's hard for me because I'm a huge Justin Fields fan. But like I said, I think it's really a 5-game evaluation. I still don't think they know exactly what direction they want to go in with the future of this team.
Hey, Jay, last one. I'm a big horse racing fan. One of my favorite racetracks
I knew it.
in the world was Arlington Park. And those SOBs bought that property and knocked my track down. Are they going to even move there, or are they trying to hold hostage another place? Or are they going to play where they belong, in downtown Chicago at Soldier Field?
Man, you know what? It's still up in the air. The funny thing is they bought that property and they cleared the land out, but now there's reports that the Bears have been looking at outside of Soldier Field, the South Lot. They've been looking at land out there to see if that's a potential landing spot for this stadium. But, you know, for me, I'm old school. I played in Soldier Field for a long time. I hope they stay there. But from a fan's perspective, you know, going to Soldier Field, the parking's terrible. It's a smaller stadium, and the Bears can't monopolize on other activities and events that they can have there at Soldier Field. So when you have headliners like Beyonce coming here and Taylor Swift, they're putting on concerts at Soldier Field. Well, guess what? The Bears don't get any of that money, and they see you know, Jerry Jones down there in Jerry's Land having boxing events and seeing all these concerts, and they're sitting there salivating and say, hey, we're missing the ball. We got to get our stadium up and running so that way we can monopolize on not just the football side of things, but other opportunities outside of football.
If you had
crooked there.
But if you had a dome stadium, your Final Fours in Chicago every year.
But put it there where Soldier Field
National
is.
championship games in Chicago, WrestleManias in Chicago, no doubt about it.
I'm a big WWE fan over here, man.
Hey, Jason, thanks so much for the time, my friend. We can't thank you enough.
Loved it.
Enjoy the game on Sunday, and we'll be talking to you down the road here.
No, thanks, fellas. Thanks for having me. You guys
Thanks,
be safe.
Yo, Jason, all love, bro.
You got it. Jason McKee, sideline reporter for the Chicago Bears. You can follow him on X at JMac37. We are going to take a break. Come right back. More live.